New moon. Caught me standing alone. Happy new moon in Gemini. The moon is high. The moon is uh climaxing. And quite honestly, in my own little meditations with it, uh, feels quite intoxicating. Um, feels quite high energy. Intoxicating is the best word I can think of. But new moon in Gemini, dark moon in Gemini, dark face of Gemini, which is interesting too because it's also the other side of any given coin, or the other way of thinking, the opposite end of a spectrum, of any given spectrum. Um, I hope this light isn't too terribly sad, but uh, I think is a right proper palindrome. A 666, mind you. Um, but ironically so, I think it's, it's not about the horns. I don't think, well, there is some sedentary bull-like energies. Um, Mostly struggling, I think. I think this 666 is much more the light bearer, the light bringer, than much more that than the mark of the beast. Which is a funny misconception, uh, too, in a lot of ways, and I think in a culture in and of itself. And those, understandings of Lucifer or Lilith or any daemon in a more honest light rather than the dogmatic fear that rolls with them. So I think that influences this portal time, this void sort of uh timing as we move through it. Um with that intoxication, I think it's close to out of control. It consider psychosis, consider vertigo, consider general escapism and the way that those things show up. Um, or, for some of us, it's just clever to know and be able to catch maybe our own mania or depression as it ebbs and flows with the strange lights or darknesses of the moon and the way that it fills or fuels our emotions, or whatever aliens feed off of that, whatever you believe, I suppose, um or whatever you believe to be true, truly. um I think a new moon in Gemini is also going to deal with how we communicate our power and our confidence, and how that fuels our creativity. I think that may check a lot of egos, because in communicating our power, I think a lot of us can still get lost in speaking to, like talking to rather than talking with, in talking at rather than talking with, and altogether ignoring listening, which isn't communication. Um, that's that's not the communication requires reciprocity. That's more of a echo chamber, I suppose. Um, in which case that's not true to what a Gemini nature would want in multiple perspectives, right? I guess ideally. But given that, there's also, a big calling to voice, a big calling to movement, a big calling to action. Um, all these planets that are visible in the sky currently, and all of which that are also currently in Gemini, Jupiter, the Sun, Mercury, doing a clever little dance with its many, many moons also viewable to us, with its many glories viewable to us right now. Um, will indicate or lead to very much speaking your truth and moving with your truth, and how we make with our truth. Um, and let your truth come through rather than just your identity. or rather than your identity. I feel like people can get those very confused and get very lost in one as well, or becoming of another in the ways that, even in relationships, we sort of take on a lot of this person's personality and mirroring. Let your identity be there, be merely as a perception of a facet of the divinity that you are, and be boundless into it, like I said, in this strange palindromatic void. Um, Not that identity is not important, but don't let it be your only truth. Your truth exists without this identifier or another. That's why uh, many lifetimes, many memories persist throughout many lifetimes, um, whether or not you believe in karma. Your body consists of many memories within many cells. Um, so, take it or leave it. Um, Let your identity be merely a perception, a facet of your divinity, and be boundless. Um, Beyond that, I think we can get very hyper fixated on what identity is or means or feels like at any given time. Again, get kind of lost in it. Um, do dedicate, do absorb, but do not lose sight and stay present. I liken it a lot to like spinning. Um, I think even with like aeronautics to train, they spin people very fast so that they can build endurance to be able to fly without getting nauseous or what have you. Ballerinas do the same thing with pirouettes. I think ice skaters that I've talked to have done something similar where there's kind of a stable point to help build endurance. And I think that's very relevant in life. I've found many uses for that analogy in general in life. Um, and that is a notion to, especially like in relation to vertigo that I brought up earlier, like when the world is spinning around you to find your stability, and identity can be fragile, but truth, your inner knowing, is not, is quite fluid like water and will destroy sediment or rock, which is where Venus takes power over Mars, which will come up later. But in general, with Gemini and all of what we've talked to, I think fair to remind you, listen, don't just talk. Um, in that spinning, tune in rather than out. I think hyperfixation can be specifically defined for many as tuning out a lot of things outside of that. So how do we tune back in rather than tuning out? And that will be utilizing check-ins. That'll be whatever that looks like for you, checking in with yourself, checking in with friends, checking in with things that bring you joy or bring you passion or bring you groundedness. Uh, Checking in with how you dilate time rather than letting it dictate you. I think Saturn will be very still throughout the month, in spite of all of this. So recognize that stillness and utilize tools and the lessons that Saturn often has for us. While that may be information that is quite usable and to keep, I think with Neptune, that information can come in dreams. That information can come in a lot of ways that if anything needs to be tuned out, it's the wrong kind of connection. It's social media. It's disconnecting from social media so you can connect in other ways that are more uh, real to the senses and perhaps maybe more even more validating to the present. Um, in time, Venus and Mercury will soon challenge these hyperfixations or dedications or absorptions or escapisms or psychosis realities, or spinning vertigo tornadoes or spirals. Um, it will challenge this, and while Mars may lie sedated, in its need for validation or acceptance, I think Venus and Mercury will rediscover what the heart wants and has to offer. Um, so it's fair to be confused and it's fair to love many a thing. Um, but utilize the way your heart listens rather than just the way that it talks. Because sometimes even in those moments we're talking over what the heart actually wants. Or what it is would be actually fulfilling or actually bring joy. For what? Fear of embarrassment, fear of shame, fear of, and I'm not one to judge. I'm terrified of failure. Um, I'm terrified of looking like I don't know what I'm doing uh, in a lot of ways. Or being perceived to have failed. It's not a great feeling, but we move through it and we find lessons in it, and nothing is a true failure. And allowing for playful creativity and fun in the failure also helps wire the brain more readily and intellect for problem solving in those situations. So laugh about it because it's good for your noggin. Um, yeah, yeah. With that being said, I've shuffled these a million and one times. So we're going to pull some cards. And we're going to use my beautiful circus cards from one of my favorite Geminis, who I love dearly. And who loves me. Uh, so Scorpios and Geminis get together. We understand each other, and we often uh, help to learn and broaden horizon and perspective. And for that, I love you. And this is also like a very fun circus deck. Of one of my favorite books. So if anything is more playful, what could be? What could be more playful than favorites and joy and lovely, lovely things? Okay, one more, and then we're good. I can feel it's just performative, antsy, and fun, but it's a lot of feeling. Ooh, ah, yeah. Let's see. Okay. These are beautiful. Okay. There's just a lot going on. It's so gorgeous. Um, the devil is the first that pops out, right? And he is beautiful. He's so intoxicating. And I think boundless can see far beyond reality. I think the left eye is meant to be this like glorious, intense void of a full moon. Gosh, the artwork is so fun, and the back of the cards are beautiful too. Thanks, bud. Love you. Um, his shadow is also a doorway. It's like utilizing the portal of lower half reality, or utilizing the portal that any given workspace can create. Um, it's very much magician vibes, but from a different perspective. So where do we direct these things? And the devil card, I think, again, the superficial, colonizing ideals on these Eurocentric simplifications, understand again this misrepresentation of like demonic energy, or demon or devil-like energy, when as far as I've read, Satanus is human judgment. And Satan is not what we think. Lucifer is not what we think. Lilith is not what we've been told. Kali is not what we've been told. Um, Karukula is not what we've been told. They're inspirers, they're creators, they're lighthouses of the world. And I think often misunderstood as our hearts can be, which is why they find such understanding in this world. Um, but that need not be the portal that we go through. The opposite side of this is the Nine of Swords inverted, and I think that's it's showing light to a lot of internal fear. And a big thing with The devil card is like flies association, Beelzebub. Um, and the nine of swords and that fear, like if you think, animals can smell this, um, flies aren't attracted to, just feces or fecal matter like, people think. They're very, very fascinating creatures, actually. But they're also very much going to show you where life has been and where light can be, and how to dilate time, like I brought up earlier. Conversely, even butterflies have a misconception about them. As beautiful as they are, they don't just eat flowers, they eat the dead as well. And the nine of swords does not have to be afraid of the reality of both or the duality of both. The nine of swords can be fully capable in what it understands itself to be. I feel like it's an inverted is how it came up. So rather than that be a slippery slope or a cover to hide on, or an impending leak, um, deal with those boundaries, because again, be like water. Water can fit anything, and if that was a leak in your ceiling, it surely would pour through. What are these leaks? Because they surely will pour through. So the present is understanding that tower exists. And it's a beautiful tower. Look at this clock tower. It's also inverted. Da, 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 da. So that goes back to what I was saying about the devil and creating with your hips in these portals, and what it actually leads you to. Where people can say that it's addictions and what have you, while that may be true, I think ultimately it leads to what really drives you really, where do you really find sustenance? Where do you really find love and passion? And again, like I said, Venus is going to come around and fucking teach us this all over again, and make sure that we know it, and make sure that we're moving with it, and make us question everything if we're not, which is why the tower is here. As beautiful as as this lightning strike is also um, leading us toward more creation. I don't want to say beg, because these plants don't beg. They don't beg. Um, they show us before they tell us. And that's what I'm saying too with, Gemini listening, not just talking. Listen for the subtle cues, listen for the body language, listen for uh, the space in between, listen for the silences, and understand what that can mean too. Um, Not to say overthink, but understand that those have its purpose as well. Uh, the same way zeros do, the same way spaces do, um, which I think you would also appreciate. Um, the lightning strike, I think, also came up in this June all signs thing. So not to bait ya, but like go back and read through that or listen through that. Um, and the chance that that brings or can instill, wherever that might be useful for you. But this tower is very much that chance moment, that wishful moment. I think in any void of creation or absolute portal that you can create in any given moment, um, don't move through it with fear. It's like they, as as much of a backmasking of magic as the craft was, the whole uh, a thing to your chest, and do not go into this circle with fear in your heart. Whatever she says. It is better to rush upon this blade than go into the circle with fear in your heart. Um, uh, I think that's very true, and hold yourself to that accountability. That's trusting yourself. Um, I think for where Saturn and Neptune came up, if that comes up with dreams, nightmares, or sleep paralysis, um, it's just a theory. But I do think sleep paralysis happens to natural astral projectors. And when you understand how to do that safely, properly, mindfully, um, and I think you're faced with a version of yourself to trust, that does take away the fear and the paralysis and the uh, intense disembodiment that sleep paralysis can be. And it does rectify whatever it may be energetically that may be observing that, or maybe your body feeling its intrusion. Um, there are ways to do these things, my friends, rather than be afraid. The King of Swords at the bottom of this is also very much, like I said, with Saturn and holding on to those tools. But also, like I just said, there's ways to do these things, my friend. Trusting yourself is one of those. We can read all the magical books in the world and all the magical texts and have a fine understanding of history and uh, what have you, and talk circles semantically around people. But none of those texts and none of that knowledge can substitute trusting yourself, or trusting your power and trusting your responsibility with it, um, to yourself, to the energy that you take and you give, to the circuits that you are, to the star power that you are, the reflection of the stars that you are, whatever uh, indigenous philosophy or holographic theory you believe in. Um, the King of Swords, and something I really enjoy about him, especially with any time of intensity, is knows and understands battle and war, but is not the warrior that shouts or screams or fights first. Um, It's the person you don't want to fight. It's like Patrick Swayze in fucking Roadhouse, or the new one, because I loved that too, and I don't care what anybody says. Um, it's very much the person that doesn't start fights but finishes them. It's very much a person that knows, or chooses peace, opts for peace before anything. And if anything has their sword is sheathed, is shielded. Um, and is not the first move. And as I'm saying that too, very much has it more so as a conduit. So again, they're listening to the subtle cues. He's listening to the earth and he's listening to the birds. So he's actually able to see far beyond him. Though he may be seemingly resting, that bird and that sword is telling him about the heartbeat of the earth and any animals that are around and objects and what have you. Um, it's quite resourceful, and it is a place of great trust and calm and peace, and I think understanding of need and necessity, where there is not fear and where there is only opportunity and nourishment and defined light. Dun, 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 dun. And I think proper messages, pure messages that are carried along, because there's also a tinge of smoke. Um, and is also a 6, at least in this deck. I don't know if that's true across the board, actually. Um, so we've got another 6. We've got quite the build, many, many, many bits of perfection. And I know that sounds impossible to some people, but you know what? You gotta question everything. I mean, even scientific method. It's not that anything is impossible, it's that it needs to be proven so. In fact, it is possible until it is proven so. Unless you can say it with sigma certainty, it is certainly possible. Okay, quite sticky. Just carrying a lot of information, carrying a lot of energy. Ooh. carrying a lot of emotions forward. Uh, Fun fact: Joker is the last card of this pool, um, which in numbers would serve as a major arcana, would serve as a point of transformation, would serve as a high calling. Um, ooh, why did I have a feeling this is 5, 2, 10? 10 of diamonds at the bottom of the deck, which is, oh gosh, that's a really intense. Which is very much, I mean, it's earth, it's hard, it's gleaming, it's a ton of reflection, it's ton of um, light to play with, light information, it's a ton of frequency, and that is various forms of abundance. And I think so much so that maybe it can shake your world, uh, but it is always giving. And as I was saying that, I like could not see and have a very uh, vivid relationship with light behind my eyes, I suppose. And so I thought for a second, like, in not seeing, I still see quite a bit. Um, and I almost went blind once, and as sad as that was, I did realize how much I would still be able to see, um, given those circumstances. And while I absolutely speak from a place of privilege, because it's not something that actually fully happened, or didn't fully take my eyesight, it was very real and very terrifying. Um, and I'm grateful every day for my sight, but I do know that I can see much beyond it. And it takes some time to really be able to grow beyond whatever fallback you perceive yourself to have. Um, if you watch the last thing, these are new. I got these from a show that I went to on Halloween. They are gypsy witch cards, which, as offensive as that word may be to some Romani nomad playing cards, with uh, also some information on them. Um, so we've got major steps, small steps, and like I guess like an octave change. And there's also an 8, 33, 34, and an 8. 6, 7, 8. Oh, interesting. Again, small steps. Quick steps. World's moving fast, isn't it? Um, Good things may move fast even. Uh, Roll with it, trust yourself, know that you are worthy and deserving. Know that your body is always talking to you. Um, and listen for the subtle cues in which your body is begging to be listened to, in the same way that our plants offer us subtle cues when they need something from us. The scythe presages disappointment, and when near, early death. Um, Foreboding cards as they may be. Um, the scythe and this hay is very much a process of mourning and a process of renewal. So not death outright. It's very much the semantics of, I don't know, Euro translation. Um, Rather than the proper definition or like proper understanding of death cards in these. And the scythe is very much a clearing. So upon again utilizing this portal, beyond fear, what is it that we want to see on the other side of this door? If you were to unlock a door to anywhere, what would the best case scenario, the ideal situation, the your heaven on earth, what would that look like? Um, There's that Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come, that breaks my heart. But one of my favorite parts about it was how heaven was a painting, and it was like actual like oil paint and sopping. But the ways in which people could create their heaven, and how beautiful of a concept that seems to be, and in a very real way, this is heaven and hell, and we create our own heaven or hell, with our presence or lack thereof, and our mindfulness in that. Um, which is again kind of those small steps, that 7 8, that 6 7 8, the stability of these multiple sixes. So like, picture like walking very steadily, very grounded, like roller skating. You really are like so uh grounded and level, and feel like all corners of your feet, even yoga. I love how the earth lights up with contact with me, or I light up with contact with the earth. Really, we both light up. It's a clever relationship. I love it. Um, as I say that, there's also a star here. The star ensures success in all enterprises when near, when very distant, some unlucky events. Success and surprises when near, indeed it is. And in between this 10 of diamonds, the scythe, and the star, in between the scythe and the stars, this 10 of diamonds and this 8. So, understanding how to replenish our hope and our faith in self, I suppose, so that you can clear away that which truly blocks you from or holds you back from what is you unbound by fear or shame, you free of expectation and entitlement, in a transaction filled world. Uh, it's very much a creative center. I think in a tree of life, would people would liken to Tiparet, or the center point of it, which if you reflect it any which way, maintains a central point, which is also why I theorize that this is much like the Hall of Witnesses, or Hall of Doors, or Hall of Mirrors that people often uh, interpret or interact with in egoic deaths or hallucinatory states. Um, but it is a place of witnessing, and it is a place of opportunity, and it is, I think, also where life is sort of condensed, um and timeless, I suppose. So be boundless in it. um the clover leaf that is here is a bearer of good tidings, denotes great chagrin. It also is not near any of the numbers that say it will be short. So this is, I think, a very timeless, boundless, eternal grace and blessing, the kind that we can carry with us for a long time. And as I say that, clovers have many meanings, but I do particularly love when they show up for me. And on a 5 of clubs, no less, which is quite a many clovers all at once. What a lucky me. Um, and what quite a bit of love. If you know me and you know the significance of that, it is quite pleasurable. And with the 33, no less. Um, I think in general, though we've lost a lot of people, they do still carry a lot of love and support in messages on the wind. Um, and they show up for people in many different ways. Maybe it's clovers, maybe it's feathers, maybe it's birds. Um, but much like the devil, or much like this King of Swords had this bird on his shoulder, much like the devil has this wide seeing eye. Um, It's a resource of seeing beyond seeing. It's a resource of hearing beyond hearing. And it is perhaps a way where we can trust ourselves maybe a little farther even than just ourselves. Um, I hope that sheds a little light at the end of the tunnel. I hope that opens some bright new doorways for you in this interesting time. And I hope, in fact, that every doorway is bright with curiosity and playfulness for what is to come. Um, Not that the world is particularly playful, I fully understand that, but we also have to consider, um, again, the possibility of anything. If it cannot be said with sigma certainty that it is not possible, then in fact it is. And that is the ways in which you revolutionize the future and dream of something better because you were boundless enough to be able to imagine it, and not just with the your own mind or ego, but with the many lives that you've lived and the many uh, lives that live within you. Um, that is quite a bit, but that is, I think, quite the transformative bit. So I will leave you with that. Um, and one of the most wonderful things that I was able to take out of this Hall of Mirrors was being taught that you can take it anywhere, and that it always exists, and that it is never goodbye, but it is only until next time. And so, with that, I love you. Donadakoi. May you have a wonderful moon.